Hey guys, it's Matt LaRosiere here with Firearms Policy Coalition, bringing you another weekly update, just to make sure you have all of the latest information on everything affecting your right to keep and bear arms. First up this week, Montanans say no to gun control. We have some good news from Montana, where residents have narrowly passed Legislative Referendum 130, which removes the ability of local governments to regulate concealed carry of firearms. While the referendum won't stop cities and towns from restricting carry in public buildings, parks, and schools, it does seem like a step in the right direction. Next up, FPC suing New York City. Let it never be said we're not fighting for your gun rights behind enemy lines. On Wednesday, we filed our lawsuit against the city of New York, challenging the city's proper cause carry license requirement. So what is proper cause? Well, it's whatever the NYPD licensing division says it is. Basically, it's a totally arbitrary standard that has allowed the city to discriminate against working class and minority people, something they've been doing since they passed the Sullivan Act back in 1911. Now, New York City's licensing requirement is fundamentally perverse. It is inherently discriminatory, and it's intended to keep law-abiding New Yorkers from exercising their natural right to self-defense. The right to keep and bear arms belongs to everybody. That means the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses yearning to be free. Next up, med schools. Guns are a public health problem. In medical news, researchers at Washington University's medical school have developed a curriculum called Anatomy of Gun Violence, which is intended to teach surgical residents about firearm violence as a disease process within its social context. Now, guns are used for lawful and unlawful purposes. They're tools. We don't blame the scalpel when a surgeon commits medical malpractice, which they do all the time, so why are surgeons being trained to blame firearms? I've always had a huge issue with talking about guns as a public health issue. Public health studies noxious and infection things, kind of like a certain virus going around. So the field of public health is not equipped to handle things that have positive aspects, like guns. You've never heard somebody say, well, my grandpappy had cholera, and I want my kids to have cholera too. But you may have heard something like that about guns. It's just more BS sophistry from the intelligentsia. Last up this week, gun restrictions still hurt Euros. There's been more terror attacks in Europe, with a shooting in Vienna and a mass stabbing in Nice. While people in Europe are focusing on whether they should have the right to engage in free speech and expression, spoiler, they probably should, they're overlooking other fundamental issues like the failure of the EU's and member states' gun laws to prevent known violent criminals from gaining access to firearms. The European Firearms Directive is one of the most restrictive gun control regimes in the world. So then why was somebody who was out on parole for attempting to join ISIS able to get access to firearms? Yet again, this just goes to show that no matter how much regulation a government may institute, people will still find a way to arm themselves. So maybe law-abiding, good people should have that same ability too? Food for thought. Well, that's all I've got for you this week. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to know more, check out fpcnews.org, where you can find this week's edition and information on all of our legal and legislative efforts. If you think this content would be important to anyone you know, help us spread the word and tag them down in the comments. Also, be sure to check out fpcgear.com, where you can get all kinds of Pro 2A gear, like this shirt, and help keep us in the fight in the process. As always, keep your eyes on Firearms Policy Coalition, where we're keeping up the fight for all of your rights all the time. I've been Matt LaRosiere, and I'll see you real soon.